Good evening and welcome. Just before we begin tonight, a reminder that our microphones aren't working in Calvin Chamber. We do have service that's taking us into families' homes here tonight. But if you're presenting tonight, use your outside voice when presenting, and that includes visitors, staff, and counselors. I'd like to call this meeting to order, but I'm going to also indicate that our counselor is going to celebrate a birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday in advance to Councillor Wardolph tomorrow. So I'm going to ask you to please remain standing and we have a round of applause. Please remain standing if you're able for a land acknowledgement, a moment of silent reflection, and the singing of Old Canada. So let's begin. We acknowledge that Stratford is positioned on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral and Wanderers peoples. As we gather, we are reminded that the city of Stratford is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples today. We acknowledge that Stratford is situated on land that was shared between the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Neutral and Wanderers peoples. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live, work, and play on this land. Thank you.
They roll in hearts, we sing out the true monsters again free. From far and wide, O Canada, we set down our forgiving. Our King Paran, glorious and saving. Oh, Canada, we stand proud. Oh, Canada, we stand proud. Oh,
Please be seated. Please allow me to share the respect and Stratford statement. Corporation of the City of Stratford is committed to providing quality service to all members of the public, council, and our employees. Our goal is to promote a safe, healthy, respectful, inclusive, and positive environment. We have a responsibility to treat people with respect by creating safe and respectful spaces. It is the city's expectation that all present will be respectful. Deputy Clerk, the meeting is yours.
Through your worship, moving to item 2 on the agenda, declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations to be made at this time? And if so, please state the general nature thereof.
None noted.
Moving to item 3, adoption of the minutes, and there is a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council of the Corporation of the City of Stratford, dated November 24, 2025, be adopted as printed.
Moved by Councillor Nigel, move, second by Councillor McKay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimously carried.
Moving to item 4, adoption of the addenda to the agenda. And there is a motion that the addenda to the regular agenda of council and standing committees dated December 8, 2025 be adopted as printed.
Moved by Councillor Back, second by Councillor Keane. Any discussion? On the agenda items? Seeing none, all in favor, opposed to any, that's unanimously carried.
Moving to item 5, report of the committee of the whole in camera session, and item 5.1 is the December 8th session. At the meeting, the following items were considered. Item 4.1, the confidential report of the city clerk with respect to applications for the municipal accommodation tax ad hoc committee. And item 4.2, confidential report of the city clerk with respect to applications for the Stratford Police Service Board. And these items were considered under the following exemption: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees or local board employees. And at the in-camera session, there was no direction provided, but personal information related to the applicants were considered by council.
Thank you.
Moving to item 6, hearings of deputations and presentations. Item 6.1 is poet laureate presentation, and there is a motion that poet laureates David Stone and Quinn Mayer be heard.
Thank you. Mover for that, Councilor Spurback will move, second by Councilor Rodolfo. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Most of any, that's unanimously carried, and at this time, I'll invite, am I inviting both at the same time, or?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
We're 2-0.
Welcome, come forward, and if I ask to go out through the back door, and come around to the side. Thank you. So welcome, David and Quinn. We're assuming you're going to give yourself a little bit of an introduction to the people at home and in council chamber.
Correction to the minutes, stones, S on the end, as in the woman. Always emphasize that. Mayor Gritzma and council, thank you very, very much for this opportunity to talk this evening a little bit more about the role of the poets laureate of Stratford. And a little bit of a rundown of our first year of activities. As I like to tell the story, it took 200 years for Stratford to discover us. So we've had a lot of ground to make up in 2025. Both Quinn and I, this is Quinn Meyer, of course, the youth poet laureate of Stratford. We started our historical appointments in February of 2025. And just as a reminder, I'm appointed for a 3-year term until February 2028. And Quinn is appointed for a 1-year term. So Quinn's year will be winding down in February 2026. I'm going to turn things over to Quinn, who will give a quick rundown of their activities during 2025. And then I will do the same. And I'm going to wrap up with, well, you guessed it, home. The home in our beautiful city of Stratford. So it's over to Quinn for their report.
Thank you, David. My name is Quinn Meyer. I'm 19 years old and I'm currently attending Wilfrid Ryan University studying music. I've had the honor of being Stratford's first ever youth poet laureate, and I'm really grateful to have had this experience. I've had so many opportunities to share my love of poetry and music with the community of Stratford. I've been able to co-host with David several poetry sessions at the Bunker, so that's been really wonderful. I got to do an event at the library where I was able to perform some of my favorite music for fellow music lovers. And both of us were also invited to present a poem for Canada Day at Stratford's Canada Day celebration. And that was a wonderful experience. And it's been really great to get myself out there in the Stratford community and yeah, just to be able to share our poetry. Thank you.
And you love working with David, right? The role of Stratford's poet laureate is basically 3-part. All 1 and 2 are like a hand in a glove. Number 1 is to write hopefully exquisite, expressive, compelling poetry for a range of civic events, community events, galas, that kind of thing. And the second aspect is to perform these poems in an equally engaging and compelling way. The third component is to build out a community poetry program, what I sometimes call bringing poetry to the people and the people to poetry. With regards to number one, in accordance with my contract, I'm in effect required to do 4 events per annum. And I'm very pleased to say that on Saturday night, I did my 46th event since my appointment at the end of February. So if this is something of a pilot for the city, I would respectfully submit that it has been powerfully successful. Some of the organizations that I've written and performed poetry for would include Stratford Rotary, the Gallery, Rotary Hospice, Stratford Kirk Museum, Stratford Summer Music. Honored to perform at both their opening night and also to be asked to MC their 25th Silver Anniversary Gala. Stratford First County Community Foundation, Stratford Film Festival, Provocation Ideas Festival, Downtown BIA, Stratford Public Library, local community food center. That's just a few examples of the many appointments and engagements that I've been able to secure during 2025. Just this past Saturday night, I'm very honored to attend the IDC Stratford initiative at Our Story, the store just around the corner, which was co-hosted by Our Story and by Invest Stratford. And in fact, on Friday night, Zach's hoping I show up for this. Will be the launch of Lights on Stratford right outside the back there, and looking forward to performing a poem that evening that's actually called Radiance, which is the theme of the Lights on Stratford event this year. With regard to my third party mandate, or the third part mandate, which is the build out of the community poetry program, basically I have 3 anchors for that delivery. The first, as many of you will know, we've launched a countywide, including Stratford and St. Mary's, of course, poetry contest called Every Voice. This is going to be an annual event. Submissions concluded about a month ago. We got 150 poems from 100 different poets, both the youth and adult categories. The theme for 25-26 is resilience. And as Quinn and I can attest, there's some really, really beautiful representations of the theme of resilience. Poems about the economy, poems about tariffs, poems about personal challenges, both physical and emotional. And of course, when it comes to resilience, you always find a lot of love poems. As we all know, that's a real requirement when it comes to human relationships sometimes. Adjudication has already occurred. I've been ably assisted, put together an editorial panel with Quinn, Heidi Sander, and Mark Hertzberger from Poetry Stratford. We'll be having an award ceremony in April, which is National Poetry Month in Canada. Maybe at one of the event spaces at Tom Patterson. And there will be an anthology that will be printed and published and for sale. It is called Roots Through Stone. That would be without an S, Roots Through Stone. And currently working with the design firm in the production of that, ready for publication. Second anchor in my community poetry program is poetry in schools. I was doing that before becoming Stratford's Poet Laureate, but it's certainly a more robust program now. In 2025, I performed poetry from kindergarten to grade 6 for 22 different classes. And I have been in touch with school boards, and they're getting me in touch with the superintendents to ensure a much more robust program in 2026. So, with a real Stratford focus, in 2025, I was all over the county, but for both the Catholic and the public school boards, I want to have much more of a Stratford focus, and it's really shaping up to be a very robust agenda. And finally, Quinn mentioned Poetry Stratford Live at the Bunker. We resurrected that as a live event, and a number of us hosted it throughout 2025. We also have a live poetry event, Starlight, now, once a month. And I just have to say that I think the appointment of the two poets, Gloria here at Stratford, has really fired the engines of the poetry scene. It's really on fire, and hats off to council for seeing the light and for all of us, pitching in. This is an artist colony after all. And I think that poetry can be real spite upon what we have to offer, not just locally, but across Ontario and even Canada. So a number of us are working hard to really elevate the role of poetry. In closing, before I form a poem for you, I want to give a really, really big shout out to Destination Stratford and Zach Ribble, and to the Stratford Public Library, Krista Robinson, and to their staff teams. Technically, we report to the library and to Destination Stratford, and without their unbending support, we would not have been able to deliver at the level that we have during 2025. Certainly the poetry contest is one example of something that we simply could not do on our own without the technical and the marketing support of those two entities. So thank you to Zach and Krista. I also did want to say this before I perform a poem for you, because that's what we're all about here. All of my community-based poems are getting published in the Stratford Times, and you've maybe noticed that there's pretty well one a week, because I'm writing that much poetry right now on a community basis. So in fact, this poem will be in the Stratford Times on Friday. And this is the poem I performed on Saturday night to close our set. And it's about Stratford. So because remember that event was How You See Stratford. It's a collection of art, poetry, photography, etc. And when I thought about how do I see Stratford, I wanted to write something unique for that evening and give it a worldwide premiere. And when I thought about it, I thought about stillness and slowness. Those of us who used to work in downtown Toronto in the big scene certainly find Stratford to be considerably slower than the pace we were accustomed to. And my poem is called 6 Times Slower Than the World. There is a way here that the evening sky settles on the Avon, a liquid ease and method to it all, an event belied of pace, the way a cat might yawn before the doorway, the blessed measured nestle of swan on nest. Time waits here, woven into water and willow, melded into the hallowed York Street bricks, the silky milk of timelessness in this place 6 times slower in the world, where history lingers, not as weight, but as stories soaked in wood and stone. Our swans are statements, metaphorical, sleek and graceful business cards for what we are all about. The theaters might insist their hours upon the clock, but their ghost lights slow us down again, the slumberous burn of curtain calls and wine in waiting. Our Stratford does not need to shout. Lovers never do. It is a presence within the soul, that pressing earworm line that calls our name and tells us it's okay to just sit here over coffee, watching rain stipple the river's mirror, never wanting to leave. Thank you very much for your time this evening. If there's any questions or points of discussion, do we have a minute or two?
Certainly.
Interesting.
Comments or questions from Mr. Stones at this time? Councilor Henderson.
I just wanted to thank you. I don't not much about poetry and he really had enlightened me. And I really enjoyed that poem.
Well, it's very important, as a poet laureate and youth poet at events, we're usually at the top of the program. The role really is to underscore the mission and goals of the organization through words hopefully well written and hopefully well spoken, and therefore to help set the tone for the evening. I'm very pleased to say that more and more organizations are seeing it that way, and they're seeing it in action, and they're saying, we're gonna have to speak with that, because that really worked. It really focused their audience, for the evening to come. Whether it's a gala, a ceremony, or have the lights on Stratford. Hopefully I'll do the same thing Friday night. Zach's great. So, yeah,
I
thank
think
you
it
very
just
much.
kind of grounds you.
Beg your pardon?
I think it kind of grounds you.
Yes, exactly. It makes people reflective and they're, at the local, just a little anecdote, I performed a poem called Don't Wolf Your Food, which was one of my mother's favorite expressions. And at the end of the evening, the kitchen staff, and I was leaving at the time, a number of the kitchen staff came out and thanked me profusely for bringing that metaphorical meaning to what food really is. As I referred to it, food is the form of connective tissue. And they were weepy about it. They said, when you were performing that poem, we stopped what we were doing just to listen because it was so meaningful for us. As we prepared the food, we put it on a plate and gets carried out there. But so that really is what I thought of. It is very grounded. It's a good word for it. Okay,
Thank you. Thank you very much. Claire, are you performing here tonight?
No, I don't have it.
Okay, thank you. But I will say this, on behalf of the city of Stratford. I did have noted that thank you Stratford Public Library Investigation Stratford for bringing this forward. And I wish you all the best, in your studies. I think you're a laureate, am I correct? As of February, you'll continue on those studies, but we'll have somebody new named to the post. David, once again, thank you very much. I've listened to a lot of your poetry. I think the one that moved me the most was the one that remembered say about your dad. And I thought that was really, it really pulled hard on the heartstrings. So to both of you, thank you for representing Stratford in so many ways and that we look forward to much more from both of you in the future. Thank you very much. Next item.
So your worship, moving to item 6.2, adjournment to a public meeting under the Planning Act. Prior to moving to the adjournment, on your agenda, comments from Mark and Jackie Kalma are noted as being received. And there is a motion that the comments from Mark and Jackie Kalma be received by council.
Moved by Councilor Seven, second by Councilor Burback. That the comments be received. All in favor? Opposed if any? And that's unanimously carried.
Thank you. And the second motion on the floor with respect to this item is that the council meeting adjourned to a public meeting under the Planning Act to hear from members of the public with respect to the following planning application. An official plan amendment application OPA 2-25 and zoning bylaw amendment Z06-25 for 16 Kastner Street, and to reconvene following the public meetings.
Thank you. Move to moving to public meeting. Councilor Henderson will move, second by Councilor Niger. All in favor? Opposed if any? That's unanimously carried. So I'd like to call this public meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is to give council and the public an opportunity to hear all interested persons with respect to the following applications. Official plan amendment OPA 2-25 and zone change Z06-25. The applications affect the property with the municipal address of 16 Kastner Street, Stratford. The order of procedure for this meeting will be as follows. The manager of planning will present the application on behalf of the city, and the agent for the applicant will provide an overview of the application. Council may ask questions for the purpose of clarifying the application or are cautioned not to make comment or to take a position on this application at this public meeting. Then the public will be asked for their presentations, comments, and questions. Questions and comments should be planning related and respectful of council, staff, and members of the public. If a member of the public is interested in providing comments or questions, please raise your hand at the appropriate time, and once acknowledged, proceed to the podium by exiting the main chamber doors and walking around to the side at the podium. The public is advised that if a person has not provided council with oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions before a bylaw is adopted or a decision is made, the Ontario Land Tribunal has the power to dismiss an appeal. The public is also advised that comments expressed and written materials presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. Are there any questions as to this order of procedure? Seeing none, we will now proceed with the public meeting, and I'll invite Mark Bancroft, Manager of Planning, forward to present for the city with respect to the application. Mr. Bancroft, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, your worship, members of council, staff, members of the public. My name is Mark Bancroft, Manager of Planning for the city, and I'm here to present this application for the official plan amendments. OPA 2-25, and application for zoning bylaw amendments at 06-25 for 16 Castor Street. Following my presentation, the applicant's agent, Caitlin Crowley from Zeleka Priamo, she's in attendance and she will be able to speak to this proposal as well. Next slide. So the subject lands as shown on the screen, they are located on the west side of Castor Street and on the south side of First Line 36, just east of Malone Avenue. The property is currently vacant. It is separated from First Line 36 by a 0.3 meter reserve, which means vehicular access is only available from Castor Street currently. In terms of surrounding land uses, we have institutional, residential, and industrial land uses to the north, on the north side of First Line 36, in the form of a church, a single detached dwelling, and a landscaping business, respectively. To the east, we have residential uses on the east side of Castor Street in the form of single detached dwellings. To the west, we have open space lands associated with the McNamara Drain, as well as to the south, the open space lands associated with the McNamara Drain, along with the neighborhood park, Castor Park. So this application was submitted, next slide. This application was submitted, your worship, by Zeleka Priamo, care of Caitlin Crowley, on behalf of Countryside Developments Inc., care of Pete Hyde. There were a number of studies submitted in support of this application, including a planning justification report, a servicing report, a geotechnical investigation, stormwater management report, a series of engineering drawings, along with a noise assessment. In terms of the efficient plan amendment, the purpose of the amendment is to redesignate the eastern portion of the property fronting Castor Street from medium density residential to the residential area designation, with the effect of permitting low density residential uses in the form of single detached dwellings, which is otherwise not permitted under the current designation. And the balance of the land would remain designated medium density residential. Next slide. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the west side of Castor Street to a residential first density R13 zone to permit single detached dwellings, and a new site specific residential fifth density R53 category to permit a 4-story apartment building on the balance of the lands accessible from First Line 36. So to facilitate the development of the proposed apartment building, there are some site-specific zoning provisions that are being requested as well. In terms of a reduced front yard depth, a reduced interior side yard width, and a reduced landscape open space requirement. Next slide. So as shown on the screen, this concept plan illustrates the proposed development of the lands. Apologies, your worship, for the orientation of the plan, considering the top of the plan actually faces west. And not north. So the plan shows the proposed 4-story apartment building to contain 74 units in total. So that would frame the northwest corner of the site, adjacent to Perk Line 36. And then there are some 5 single detached lots proposed along the west side of Castor Street. There's also a proposed servicing easement to accommodate the proposed apartment building that would tie into Castor Street. Next slide. So in terms of the official plan, subject lands are currently designated medium density residential, which permits townhouses, quadruplexes, and apartment style developments. The west half of the subject property is generally identified as being within the regulatory flood hazard, given the adjacent McNamara terrain. Next slide, please. In terms of the existing zoning of the property, the land is zoned residential 4th density, a dual zone under the city's comprehensive zoning bylaws, which only permits street townhouse dwellings as well as clustered townhouse dwellings. And also in the proximity of the McNamara drain, the lands are also regulated under the Conservation Authorities Act. Next slide, please. So the subject applications were circulated on November 14th, all required agencies, with comments received from agencies listed on the screen. No concerns or objections were raised, with the exception of comments received by Invest Stratford's through their housing specialist, noting that they're not in favor of the reduction in the residential density to accommodate single detached dwellings. They also note that Stratford has both a housing shortage and a lack of available land combined with limited available infrastructure, and that these lands should be optimized for appropriate density as was designated in the zoning bylaw. Next slide. In terms of public comments received, to date that is limited to 2 written submissions, your worship. In terms of the key issues raised, one regarding the access for the apartment building, we have one neighbor that wishes the access to be from Perk Line 36 as proposed, because they are concerned about any additional traffic on the local residential street, the Castor Street, versus the flip side. We have a neighboring resident who resides on the north side of Perk Line 36, and they are concerned about the proposed access with respect to impacts from vehicular headlights shining in on living areas and whatnot for that dwelling unit located across the way. There's also another comment raised about the apartment building height. And due to the amount of fill used to raise the property, the proposed 4-story building would have the appearance of being a 6-story building. And lastly, concern about drainage, and that surface water runs off the site and floods the new pathway along the McNamara drain, creating unsafe conditions for pedestrians. Next slide. So your worship, that concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from council, Councilor Seven?
Thank you. Are there any parking changes that are going to be I've lost the word, but are there any exemptions for parking that are going to be made?
Through your worship, there is no request for relief from any of the parking requirements.
Thank you, Councilor Seven. Councilor Lewis, go ahead, please.
I didn't see any accessible parking spots, so I'm assuming that's coming through in site plan drawings.
Through your worship, yes, that is correct. Once a decision is rendered by council, ultimately there would be a site plan application filed with the city, which would deal with those nuances.
Do you know if any of the units inside of them, I'm assuming they're gonna have accessible power doors. That's the law now, but do you know if any of the units are gonna be made accessible?
Through your worship, I'm not aware either way. However, we do have the applicant station in attendance, so perhaps you could answer that question.
Any other questions at this time? Mr. Baker. Seeing none, thank you very much. If you, this time I'll welcome Ms. Crowley forward. Present on behalf of the agent. You're welcome, whenever you're ready then.
Good evening, your worship and members of council and neighbors here tonight. My name is Caitlin Crowley, senior planner with Solinka Priamo and the planning consultant for Countryside Developments, who is local developer and the owner of 16 Castner Street, which is proposed for development subject to the official plans of the bylaw here tonight. Visuals for my presentation, if I could have the concept plan put back on the screen. Yeah. And then I've also got some visuals here of the proposed apartment building that I'll go over as well. So first, I just wanted to thank Mark for his presentation and overview, as well as for his staff report. As many of you are aware, this property was previously approved for a medium density residential townhouse development with 33 units per hectare or 45 townhouses through the Countryside subdivision proposal. Since that time, the market has changed and we believe that apartment units can be better supported and are a more desired and more affordable form of housing for the current and future residents of Stratford. The apartment form is a different form of housing for this area and adds to the diversification of the market. The land required for the apartment building is actually less than what was required for the townhouses, and as a result, the logical building form for the remainder of the block along Castner is single detached dwellings consistent with the other dwellings along that street. Now I'll go over some of the components of the proposed apartment. So the apartment block consists of a 4-story apartment building with a total of 74 dwelling units and 108 surface parking spaces with vehicular access on Perth Line 36. Out of the 108 parking spaces, 5 are barrier free, consistent with the zoning bylaw, and out of the 74 residential units, 4 are going to be completely accessible units, where 3 are required under the building code. The main entry is also to be designed as a barrier-free entrance to OBC standards, and there is barrier-free travel through the common corridors of all levels in the apartment, and there will be an elevator as well. So this apartment building has been constructed successfully on a property in London, so these are the visuals you see here tonight. It's a well-functioning development with a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and tenure for the apartment building is proposed to be rentals. Approximately $600,000 will be paid for development charges for the apartment building, and approximately $80,000 for all single detached dwellings. That's just a preliminary calculation based on current DC rates, which will contribute to city services and infrastructure. The closest transit stop to this property is via Route 3 via McCarthy at Fraser Drive, which can be accessed via the new multi-use trail through Castner Park. And as you will see here as well, there is the easement proposed through lots 3 and 4, and that is the servicing easement for the apartment block. And only underground infrastructure is proposed through that easement, no above ground infrastructure. As part of the requirements of the Planning Act, this meeting here tonight is the statutory public meeting for the purpose of consultation with the neighbors. We did review the public comments both in the staff report and the separate letters submitted. So there was a comment, as Mark mentioned, about the perceived reduced residential density to accommodate single detached dwellings where townhouses were previously permitted. So I just wanted to clarify that the proposed density through these applications is 72 units per hectare for the apartment block. This is more than the current density for the whole property, which is 33 units per hectare, or 45 townhouses. So overall, the block density has increased from the original proposal, and we do believe again this apartment form and density is a more efficient use for the property and the infrastructure in the area as well. Vehicular access for the apartment is, as discussed, first line 36, being the higher order road. It is able to support increased traffic and is appropriately separated from surrounding major intersections as well. The proposed access can also be screened where necessary through landscaping. So obviously through this application, landscaping was considered, and we will be able to put shrubs along first line 36, and that can be further refined through the site plan application. A traffic report was not requested at the time of the submission of these applications. However, we did consult with a traffic engineer, specifically regarding the proposed access, and at the time, no concerns were raised regarding the location. After future development and grading of the property, drainage and the retention of stormwater will be improved through future detailed grading and detailed engineering design. A formal grading plan, servicing plan, and landscape plan will be submitted as part of the site plan submission. So based on this information, it is our opinion that the proposed development for a 74-unit apartment building and 5 single detached dwellings is appropriate for the property and is overall a more compatible and efficient use of the available land and infrastructure than is what is currently permitted on the property. So thank you everyone for your time, and I am also here to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentations. Questions from Councillor Henderson.
I just want to clarify, you said 5 accessible parking spots and 5 accessible units?
5 accessible parking spots and 4 accessible units.
4,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Any other questions? Councillor Hunter?
Yeah, thank you, through the mayor, just out of curiosity, the 5 detached lots, are they easier to sell than townhouses right now?
Right now, probably, I don't have that number specifically, but it was the developer's opinion that yes, that was the case. We did look into potentially doing strict townhouses, but singles made a little bit more sense with the singles.
Councillor Furback and then Seth.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a question based on one of the comments that the neighbors submitted about, I'm assuming it's about drainage and the height at which this building might have to sit. Can you provide any insight into that?
Yes, so I do recall that comment actually. So the grading on the property is going to have to be redone. We don't have that detailed grading plan yet. But I did drive by the property on my way here. It does look quite elevated right now. But that will likely be done as part of the apartment proposal and the stormwater plan. So again, yes, I did hear the drainage concern as well, so I think the grading and stormwater management will definitely be looked at through this detailed engineering firm.
Councillor Seven?
Thank you, just going back to, I know at when this previously came to council, there were also concerns about the coming and going traffic and the headlights for the neighbors across the street. You had mentioned the shrubs, is there any other sort of mitigation you can speak to, because I know just where the access point is, it's sort of across from those 2 houses there. I'm just wondering if you could speak to any mitigation that might be able to happen.
In terms of, I think landscaping is probably going to be our only bet in terms of what we can do to kind of mitigate as much as we can. There is going to be some in and out traffic that is going to generate some headlights, but hopefully it can be mitigated where possible with the state.
Anything further from council? Thank you, and might have you back for some closing remarks, okay? Thank you. At this time, are there any comments, questions, presentations from the public? Once again, was there any comments, questions, or presentations from the public? And the third call, any comments, questions, or presentations from the public, none noted. And going back to Mr. Bancroft and Ms. Crowley, any final comments for this evening? Seeing none, Councillor Furback, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. I did have one question probably for the Director of Infrastructure Services. because the density will be increasing, of course, that means more traffic, so will that change the need for a traffic study in this area? Because we know we do have a lot of development going on in that area, and I'm a little concerned about that.
Director Craigmore.
Yeah, to the chair, typically our trigger through our standards 75 units is what typically triggers the traffic study. I didn't confer with my staff whether they can continue to follow up on that. That is something we can consider at the end site plan.
Anything further from council? Right. Seeing none, the city of Stratford intends to consider these applications at a future regular council meeting where members will have an opportunity for full discussion after reviewing comments received from the public at this time. If anyone would like to receive further notice of this matter, please email clerks@stratford.ca. A video of this meeting will be posted on the city's website. This public meeting is adjourned. Madam Clerk, I'll turn the meeting back to you.
For your worship, moving back to your agenda, item 7 is orders of the day, and item 7.1 is an application for park lot control exemption, PLC 22-25 for lot 4 unregistered plan 44M-91, municipally addressed as 45 and 49 Worsley Street. And there is a staff recommendation that council approve application for park lot control exemption to exempt lot 4 unregistered plan 44M-91 from park lot control for 1 year from the date of the passing of the bylaw to permit the creation of separate conveyable lots for each of the semi-detached dwelling units, such that each unit would be under separate ownership.
Thank you. The mover, 7.1, moved by Councilor Burbach, seconded by Councilor McCabe. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Any? That's unanimous. Carried.
Moving to item 7.2, a request for municipal support resolution from Cordelia BESS Inc. at 465 Wright Boulevard. Through your worship, it is my understanding that the Director of Building and Planning Services will be providing an overview of the report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, members of the council. So we've received a request that is the first of its kind for the city of Stratford. There was one that was done roughly about 10 years ago under another regime, but the Independent Electricity Operators System, or IESO of Ontario, has released an RFP, a request for proposals for private electricity storage systems, battery electricity storage systems. So these are where the systems that would occur on private property, and there would be a system of facilities, storage containers that would each house batteries, and it would hold energy off the grid and release it back to the grid when there's energy, there's a need for energy or a peak in demand, and this allows more energy to be released to the grid. I will note and that I did provide council with a comprehensive report. I do apologize for the lengthiness of it, but it was, as I stated in my report, it's twofold. One is to assess the request that we've received from Cordelia BESS Incorporated for their proposal at 465 Wright Boulevard. And secondly, there is an option, or there's a likelihood that the city could receive more of these types of proposals over the coming year. This is a 4-year program. The way it works is the IESO will have a certain windows. This is the first window under this program, and there could be 3 more. So in the event that the city receives future requests, we would have a program, a procedure in place to analyze and assess those. So what the proponent is asking for, and I do note that the company or the proponent did not send any representatives to speak here tonight. I note that the individual who submitted the formal request does, I believe, resides in Vancouver, so he's not able to attend. We received this request about 60 days ago. That's the minimum consultation timeframe that the IESO requires. So when we did receive it, we've typically dealt with these sorts of things before. We deal with similar processes with telecommunication towers and those sorts of things. So this is not a municipal approval per se, but what my report does stipulate is that they're looking for municipal support resolution tonight. If this moves forward, if they are granted approval through the IESO, what my report does stipulate is that the real work will begin with site-specific review and analysis under a site plan control process. And I would look at anything as stated in my report, aesthetics, safety, making sure that there's not water in the event of potable and or even with the event of a fire, and those sorts of things. Security, egress, but also site commissioning and site decommissioning. In my research of these projects, with the amount of batteries sitting on a property, there could be a situation where, in the event of an absentee project owner, if the city's left with a site full of unused batteries, that could pose a site contamination concern. And what my research has found is some municipalities are requiring site decommissioning plans, where in those plans, the municipality holds a financial security bond that would allow the city to, in this case, deal with that circumstance if it arises. So with that, what I might do, Your Worship, is I did provide a lengthy report. If there's any questions or clarifications, I'm able to go through those, but what I might do is open it up for questions or comments.
Thank you. Councilor Henderson, go ahead.
See the chair. I have a question. I'm just a little bit confused about this. We use Festival Hydro here. Are they the keeper of this right now?
Through Your Worship, good question. The lands are owned by Festival Hydro. There's two parts of the land here. If folks have driven through that part of the right boulevard, Festival Hydro has their transformers in their site adjacent to the north. And there's an underutilized parcel that they own adjacent to the south. In 2016-17, I believe the city did review and approve a building that was going to be used for battery energy storage. As I understand, I believe that project is no longer being utilized. I don't know if the building is vacant, but that project is not moving forward. So there is a building on the site. But what this project is proposing is a number of storage containers across the property. Back to the original question, Festival Hydro does own the property. If this proponent is successful through the ISO program and moves forward, they will have to enter into a lease agreement with Festival Hydro.
So does this affect the money that Festival Hydro makes from?
Through Your Worship, I might leave that to Festival Hydro. I did circulate Festival Hydro on this proposal. They responded with technical comments on the project. But that would be between Festival Hydro and this project proponent. If there was any need for Festival Hydro to come and seek sort of any approvals or direction from council in that regard, I will let Mr. Grant deal with that. But I'm not sure if I have the details to answer that question.
If I could, sir, I did connect with Festival Hydro on this item, and they did indicate that. I'm just trying to make sure that I have the right information. This is also an opportunity for us to lease lands and generate additional revenue to offset rates. So that's one item that they did share. And the other item that they did share, this is the president CAO speaking, that I have no concerns with any of this as it relates to the new project.
Yeah, I was just worried about, private and we own the corporation, not the festival, right?
I was concerned that
conflict there, right?
I was concerned with that item as well, so I did reach out.
And are you saying the battery storage that was there is no longer there?
Through Your Worship, there's a building on the site. It's a steel-clad building that was put forth as far as a battery energy storage system proposal in 2017 under the IESO program of the day. I think the technology has changed and the program has evolved. My understanding is that building is no longer being utilized for battery energy storage.
Wow.
Let's see, Councilor Munter, McCabe, Burback, and Bean.
Thank you, through the mayor. First, I wanted to thank you for the summary you provided, because this was all new to me. So that I found it helpful, and just generally, I think maybe our residents reading these reports would find that helpful. So I appreciate that. when I look at this project, there are a number of questions and potential concerns, but I think this is too early to get into those, is my understanding. And I'd be supportive of at least getting the ball started and then take a look into those issues.
Through your worship. Generally, I don't disagree, and what my report stipulates is that the bulk of the work will take place at the site plan review process. I will be coming back to council with likely a procedure of sorts or information that council may want to consider if any other proposals come forth. I know that the IESO would allow municipalities to give blanket support resolutions. In essence, if a proponent moved forward, it would be an automatic direction to staff. If provided criteria is met, it doesn't have to come to council for consideration. But on this one, it's a municipal support resolution that if it was a process like move forward like this, I or staff would come forward with a staff report and a minor presentation of what's being put forth and a recommendation of whether or not to move forward with this municipal support resolution. I will admit that generally some of the research and the precedence with other municipalities is a bit limited. I've tried to be as comprehensive in my report as possible, but I'll admit we weren't expecting this. We didn't know it was coming. I'd say there's not many other municipalities who have these yet, so there's not much to lean on.
Councillor Kate.
Thanks for the report, the comprehensive nature of it, and I think ultimately I have been watching the IESO process and was expecting that this would come forward at some point, and it's good that we are, as a municipality, are seeing this early on. I think that there's certainly benefits for CCAP and the community, and also for the ratepayers if we have the kind of balancing that a battery storage facility would provide to Festival Hydro. It would possibly lower their overall infrastructure costs, so they don't have to build out. And ultimately, that helps our ratepayers as far as what they are going to be paying. And what I do want to sort of recommend is that we look at, as part of this resolution, to negotiate a host community benefit framework. As I understand it, that is possible in relationship to this. So funds could be earmarked for climate action, energy projects, grid resilience, backup power, EV infrastructure, something like that. Or a community benefit reserve. But if this is going to be something that we're seeing going forward, it would be good that we have a clear understanding of how that could benefit the community, possibly with our community climate action plan, as well as making sure that people who are coming in to do business in the community are providing a broader benefit to the community.
Thank you, Councillor Kate, Councillor Burback, and then Councillor B.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, I have a bunch of questions that were sort of partially answered here and there. So first of all, we do have a facility like this already, to answer Councilor Henderson. So we have one, yes, that's owned by Festival Hydro that has batteries in it that is functioning as a backup. So I've been on a tour. So that's correct information, right? Yes.
I have not been on a tour of that facility. It's brought to my sure.
Yeah. So you're talking about a different building that doesn't have anything in it, is that correct?
Through your worship, if I direct council to page 68 of the agenda. There's a site sketch of a conceptual site sketch there. In the great, thank you, Andre. So the building that Councilor Roberts mentioned is this building. Is this gray roof building? Conceptually, the project would entail a number of small scale shipping container-like structures, each of which would contain batteries within. So it's not a second standalone building. It's separate to the existing building.
So my understanding is that, and I've seen it, unless it's been decommissioned, we have a battery facility already that is Festival Hydro. So I would assume that this project would fall under some similar requirements from us. I guess the next question I had would maybe be for Councillor McCabe, like we were talking about how this could financially benefit the city and that we could put a reserve together to put towards other initiatives. How do we generate money from this? Or is it from tax? Like, are we collecting property tax from Festival Hydro?
Through the chair, yes, every property owner has the requirement to pay the taxes. It's zoned as or classified as industrial land, but that particular section that was referenced would be as like vacant. Because it's not, there's nothing on parcel there.
So currently it's vacant and then it would come up in class into being used as industrial. Okay, another question, but now I've forgotten it, but maybe go to somebody else now.
Thank you.
Through your worship. If I could speak to Councillor Rebecca's question about the existing process. So if we recall that site concept, the city site plan control includes buildings that are being constructed in zones for commercial, industrial, higher density residential. Site plan doesn't capture smaller structures. So what I want to make sure is that whether you're constructing 1 or 28 smaller structures, that's essentially not exempt from site plan control. So what the procedure needs to occur is making sure that A, we have site plan to make sure we catch all the safety, aesthetic, security type matters, but also the time it takes and the resource that it takes for staff to review, circulate to agencies, and have council consider these types of proposals in front. So similar to planning applications. So in that regard, I am recommending fee similar or it's essentially the same as our site specific zoning bylaw amendment fee.
So there would be a fee associated with putting forward the application.
Yes.
I did remember my other question.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the site decommissioning plan, and then there's a number of items that have been flagged by infrastructure and engineering, like water usage and different things. So is this the point at which we're making an approval that we can put those conditions on, or would that be in the future? So this is just sort of, you can go ahead and investigate this, but it has to come back to us to have more information so we can make a real decision.
Through your worship, the circulation took place with staff to see whether or not, if this moved forward, it was okay at this location, at this scale, at this magnitude, etc. or not. Generally, there were some comments that question and raised some flags, but generally can move forward. If it does move forward and Cordelia Best Inc. says we've got approval from ISO, we're coming back, we're ready to do this. Okay, you're going to go through site plan control. That is a process we already have in place. I want to make sure that council passes a bylaw that says notwithstanding battery energy storage systems are subject to site plan control. In essence, they're not exempt. They can't do this without agency circulation and comments and an agreement in place. So making sure that if they get approval and they come back to us ready, wanting building permits, there's a more stringent review process and a legal agreement that will be executed to make sure that we get these requirements that have been flagged at this stage in the process.
Thank you. So site plan control would catch some of these things that were flagged to the noise study, the water. Okay.
Certainly.
Councillor Bean, then Councillor Seven, and Henderson.
Thank you for the mayor. My concerns are mostly safety things that I would like to just ask publicly so that people can hear the answers to them. I have reached out to Chief Anderson, and my question to the chief here, the first one is, in a worst case scenario, if there was a fire at this site, does the fire department feel that they have the equipment that would be necessary to contain a fire of a lithium ion battery facility?
You Chair. Thank you, Councilor Bean, for that. And I love the terminology you used as continue. And yes, I am very confident you have the equipment and partners and the experience, let alone the water supply in the industrial area. It's the highest level of water supply in those hydrants, 1,500 gallons per minute plus. So that's what the biggest thing would be in containing these fires would be to cool the surrounding areas, the exposures. we would not attempt to put the fire out if it's impinging on the container. We just protect a shelter in place for people. I did a quick look on the map here, and typically you start your evacuation area, protect your people from, including first responders about 150 feet away. That's the initial, depending upon the size of the area and the population. But the closest neighborhood's almost a kilometer and a half away, notwithstanding onesies and twosies and a couple barns south of it. But that's in the north area. Plenty of area to protect in place or a shelter in place, given that, I'm very confident that we have. Not only experience, the training we equipment for a fire protection.
I have a follow-up, yes, and this question will be for Director Crinklaw. If there was, again, a worst case scenario and that a lot of water was used to try and contain the fire. I know that there is potential that they have a water containment unit, the water that goes down could be contained, but again, worst case scenario, is there a risk to our drinking water or the water system in place if the water that was used would contain heavy metal?
Yeah, so Jared, part of those details will get worked out as the site plan review process, so we don't have all those details at this point. In terms of if there was a significant fire required suppression for a prolonged period of time. That's one question being asked the proponent. Typically, those systems are designed for the worst case scenario anyway, so they're built in to have capacity to deal with the worst case scenario. In terms of what you're speaking of there, it would mean that the worst case, the effluent would enter our sanitary sewer system and be treated by the downstream plant. They have mechanisms there to deal with a lot of material that would be put in there. That would be something, you know, where would be triggered to let them know that they might have altered their process to respond to such a situation. Those are the kind of details we go through.
Sorry, see that. Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So the concerns that you've raised and have been responded by the chief and the director, the proponent would have to retain their own consultants, qualified and specialists in fire safety and engineering to provide and demonstrate documented in reports to meet the satisfaction of the city in those regards. So that would be a requirement that is to be submitted with their site plan application to be reviewed by our staff and our department heads. And if it does meet the satisfaction of our staff member, what we do is we send it back and we say you need to fix this or address this. And then once it comes back and we are good with it, hopefully we're good with it, then they can proceed and they get site plan approval after we sign the agreement and it moves forward.
Councilor Saturn, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a number of questions and I'm just wondering, so through this process, so what would happen if we did not support this resolution? I'm just like, is this the equivalent of like, I guess an approval? Because after for council's involvement anyway, because after this, council's no longer involved in site plan or anything. And so I just, as part of that question, I'm just wondering why does the IESO, why do they need a resolution? It just, to me, it sort of makes it seem like there's maybe potential downfalls that I'm not aware of, and this is sort of the last stop for council, and then it kind of opens the door in a way.
Director. Thank you, Your Worship. In my research, some of these are taking place in municipalities that are either for alternative or sustainable energy solutions or alternative energy generating. Some of these are taking place in indigenous communities. Some of these are taking place arguably in areas that may or may not have the support, or may, if projects or installations of these are coming in and they're arguably going to bring a lot of money or come with some sort of lucrative arrangement for the project proponent, that's where the municipality would want to leverage the community benefits. But also the ISO is willing to work with private proponents, but only on the basis that they are working with municipalities or indigenous communities that are supportive of these things to begin with. So through my report, I've talked about our community climate action plan, our zoning bylaw, our official plan, even the provincial planning statement, all of which push for and guide sustainable energy solution. So the ISO, it started with the wind turbines in some communities that were for or against, and we know that it was about 10, 20 years ago, some of those rural communities were well against those wind turbines. It's the same sort of regime, same sort of process, making sure that they are working with municipalities that are supportive of these types of.
So to my understanding, then this would come back to council.
Through your worship, the process, the site plan control requirements and the bylaw to subject private energy storage systems would come back to council through a bylaw amendment. And with that, some criteria to which council may want to see when future requests come forward.
Councilor Sutton, go ahead.
Thank you. So then just as a follow-up, so if we adopted this resolution prior to having what you were just mentioning in place, does that open us up to sort of like, would it be better to defer this, put those in place and then support a resolution while we already have those? Because I'm just worried about, we put it forward, we don't have those safeguards in place.
Thank you, your worship. I don't believe there's anything missing. If anything, it's the community benefits and what Councillor McKay brought up is some municipalities, and it's in my research, it's the municipalities where these are being proposed in Indigenous communities. And making sure that the Indigenous communities benefit financially, economically from these installations, and using local labor and firms within the construction of these installations. Beyond that, there's been a comprehensive analysis about what this is going to be and what it's going to entail through the site plan control process. More importantly, battery energy storage systems do exist in private installations already that have been established by private entities, private businesses that have the financial resources and means to do it themselves for their own business benefit. This is something that is trying to leverage the IESO funding program in order to install this. So our building department, our planning staff and our departments and our fire chief and others are well capable of analyzing this to make sure that it's both safe, appropriate, and aesthetically appropriate in the business part. Our zoning bylaw allows for these sort of things. If this was putting forward on someone's property next to a children's play area or next to the park at the Rotary, we might not be able to. We might process the request, but we might be in front of council saying, we don't support this.
So like Councilor Henderson and then Hunter and McKay.
So through the chair, I have a few questions and I think it nice will help clarify more. Is this, if we approve this and they build these units, is the energy gonna be going into our grid and will this lower hydro bills in Stratford? Am I misunderstanding that or just am I?
I'm quite confident the energy will be going into our grid, the grid that's provided to us by Festival Hydro. It can be safely assumed that it should lower. Now, that is, again, as the mayor mentioned, I don't want to speak on behalf of Festival Hydro, and I do want to remind council and those listening, at the end of the day, this is a project that's going to take place on Festival Hydro owned lands. Festival Hydro is going to do their own due diligence with the project proponent to make sure that this is a good deal, a good project that's going to take place on Festival Hydro owned land.
And my last one is it necessary or should we be looking at putting barriers up to protect the areas to the east, west, north, and south of them? Like, like the building that Festival Hydro did, it's, I think it's a metal building and everything inside it, right, then it connects up to the hydro pit there. So is that something we need to worry about?
Yes, we will be addressing that through site plan control, whether it's fencing, whether it's buffering, vegetation, berms.
So that was interesting to hear the part about it's another way similar to solar and wind and battery. So those three are sort of, I'm right for this.
Councilor Hunter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding of projects like this is there are two benefits. One is it provides the missing link with renewable energy because the sun doesn't always shine when you need energy. Same with wind turbines, and I don't know how long the storage lasts. Probably not from the summer to the winter, but it would be it fills that gap, the energy storage. The other thing, and I don't know if these specific units do it, but when end of life electric vehicle batteries still have life in them, and the estimate is 60 to 80% life when they're no longer viable for electric cars. And facilities potentially can take those batteries, put them into the storage systems and still get some use. So they help, and again, I don't know if this project is specific to that, but it gives the municipality a potential to deal with those used batteries. So I think there are some pluses to this. Whether this is the right project or not is a different question, but generally I think this type of thing is good for our community.
Thank you, Councilor Hunter. Councilor McKee, go ahead, please.
I'm excited that this is coming in front of us here and now before other municipalities. Ultimately, energy is going to be located near communities in every sense. And we have an opportunity to sort of define it a little bit better if we figure out a framework for community benefits that could also, lead to fast chargers, something of that nature. So we're actually spiking our plan for the CCAP. And also on the Indigenous part of this, there's a lot of investment going into Indigenous companies in battery storage. It is possible that we will be seeing proponents coming to this municipality, and I think that that's a great potential for truth and reconciliation to be seeing that kind of proposal coming into the community as well. So I'm very happy to see this moving or potentially moving forward. Is there something that I should add to this resolution to include include some sort of negotiation of the community benefits?
Through you, your worship. So at the end of the report, I provided the draft resolution that the clerk's department would issue, and what I've drafted here wrote, and Audrey Miranda, don't worry, I'll send this to you, but so after the last item is number 10, if council was interested in adding one more, number 11, which would say something to the effect of, if the proposal receives approval from the IESO prior to project commencement, the proponent shall negotiate a community benefits agreement with the corporation of the city of Stratford as per the requirement of the IESO LT2 C1 RF. With that, like I said earlier, what's able to be negotiated, the terms will require some more research and analysis between myself and staff and others, but I'll bring that forward. What we would see there is whatever that entails, we bring that forward for council consideration and approval.
Thank you. So Councilor Niger, I saw your hand, and I'll go back to 7 and then to Henderson.
Through the mayor, I think this technology has been used many years before, like it's just a newer technology, but data centers used something similar many years ago, where when National Trust data centers, I'm sure the World Bank does it too, you have rooms full of batteries where these batteries are charged, and if they have a power failure, they kind of step in before the diesel engines fire up and kind of generate the energy for them. So it's a newer technology, but it's been used for many other than selling it back to festival fiber. So from the safety piece and a lot of the other pieces we've been talking about, those areas have been covered.
Councilor 7, thank you, Councilor Niger.
Thank you. Could we just, I'm having trouble understanding the community benefit piece and where is that coming from exactly?
Through your worship, the IESO RFP requirements. So this is it's not the city's RFP, it's the Independent Electricity Systems Operator, the IESO, has RFP out there right now. This is the first year of stage 2. And they've got the program requirements. Now, they list community benefits agreement. And we know what community benefits are in terms of the Planning Act, but this is that. And I've seen what a few other municipalities have done. And I'm not saying those are right or wrong. And on page one, on the proponent's submission letter that's the attached to the report, they've written, pardon me. Some of the project's community benefits include improved local power reliability and quality, local construction and service jobs, industrial tax-based contributions, and support for festival hydro to grid modernization. So essentially, what I've seen, Councillor said, and some other municipalities are requiring a financial contribution per megawatt of generation. I've seen that being done in a few or a handful of other municipalities, but what makes their none of the calculations are the same. So I think there's just some research to be done about what is appropriate, what is eligible, and what council could negotiate. But I don't have that. It's not lost if council provides its resolution tonight. If we look at the proponent's time frame on this, we're not going to see this according to their time frame on page 3 and 4. May 1st of 2030 is when the start of commercial operation. So there's a lot of time here. I can't speak to why it's going to take that long from today's date, but
Thank you. Councillor Henderson?
I'm not sure if this is really the answer, but will this also help, like, when investor out is trying to entice business, I'm here, as an extra added feature telling them that less chance of having power outages?
I don't know if I can.
I can say to that end that probably the scope of this loan investment wouldn't, but a larger scale, it could possibly be enough back for during those peak times or those down times that it could. But I don't think this one alone would have much selling power.
So just my last question is, so this Gordell Best Incorporated has reached out and they want to do this here, but so my understanding is there's going to be a whole bunch of different companies like this, or do we know yet?
3 years. No, it's no different like any planning applications. Like this is a entity, a business who's interested in Stratford and are applying under window 1. We're not seeing any more this year because the deadline to submit, we received 1. Next year, we could receive 0, we could receive 5 or 10. But, if council provides the recommendation of the report, is we'll get a process in place, a fee in place, and making sure that these are subject to site plan control. But, to answer your question, no, I don't know what perhaps maybe Festival Hydro has more of insight on.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to turn to the CAO at this time.
Yeah, through the mayor, just to provide one comment on that question. So the ISO has kind of identified in Ontario, the needs for power are going to almost double over the next 25 to 30 years. So they put together programs to incentivize different forms of electricity, storage, etc. They've been doing for several years. And this is the idea with the change in the way we use power and electricity is evolving and changing. Electric cars, cell phone batteries, AI, things have evolved, and they're trying to get ahead of that in Ontario, and this is where these incentives are coming from.
Thanks.
So you may see a lot more of these type of projects. Again, Southern Ontario may not necessarily have the need today, and a lot of projects probably will more, etc. But we'll see this strengthening.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Through the chair, I was just going to answer Councillor Henderson's question since I did tour the existing battery facility place. One of the benefits that I was told was that it not only helps with powerage, but brownouts. So especially in that industrial area, there's been a great reduction in brownouts for people. So it's a more stable supply of electricity for manufacturing, which is a big benefit.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Rodolfo, go ahead.
Yeah, just my question, just for safety reason, can you just move a little bit outside town? Not like these like a Toronto in case if something happen. It's very dangerous, I mean, difficult to control, right? Like it's a zone, like a different side, a little bit outside town, maybe underground, I don't know.
Through your worship, so if council wants to consider not supporting this so that it situates outside of town, that's at council's discretion, but what I've looked at is the appropriateness in our zoning bylaw. We've consulted with the fire department and other departments about the appropriateness of this. The project proponent will need to ultimately demonstrate with qualified expert analysis with submissions and reports about how this can work. So the request from the project proponent is for 465 right Boulevard. Also noting that we don't have jurisdiction outside of town.
Any other comments from council at this time? I'll turn it back to the deputy clerk with regards to the motion.
Your worship, the staff recommendation is that the report titled Request for Municipal Support Resolution by Cordelia BES Inc. 465 Reich Boulevard be received. That council supports the request by the company for the issuance of the municipal support resolution. And I would add to this portion as presented to councils to ensure that the draft resolution noted in the report by the director is the format that's provided. In relation to a proposed battery energy storage system facility at 465 Wright Boulevard, that staff be directed to issue the required municipal support resolution in the form prescribed by the independent electricity system operator, subject to the conditions and review framework outlined in this report. That staff be directed to prepare and bring forward for council's consideration a draft amendment to the city's fees and charges bylaw to add a fee for processing requests for municipal support resolutions related to energy projects as outlined in this report, and that staff be directed to prepare and bring forward for council's consideration a draft amendment to the city's site plan control bylaw to include a definition for private energy storage systems and confirm that such facilities are subject to site plan control.
Moved by Councilor McCabe, second by Councilor Knight. Further discussion, Councilor Seven.
Thank you. Just referring to the fee for processing the requests, is this fee being charged for this request? It is, okay. If I just.
Let's go ahead.
They paid.
Okay, thank you. And I do have some other comments. I'm apprehensive about this request. I think I'm apprehensive because there are being community benefits and incentives sort of provided, and that to me raises a bit of red flags. And this is new. I know we have site plan and we have framework in place to safeguard ourselves, but I'm also concerned about a private entity handling something that is being handled now by Festival Hydro, that they're the only other ones we've been dealing with that are doing this service, and the accountability with a private entity who is a corporation is, in my mind, a lot less, and we can put framework in place to make it more accountable, but I just have reservations. My preference would to see this be deferred until we can have sort of those more safeguards and more things put in place ahead of this. It would just make me feel better, and so I don't support this at this time.
Thank you. Councilor Back.
Thank you. Through the chair, just had a question. Is this a time related, like, we didn't approve it tonight, they would miss the deadline of some sort?
Through your worship. So that I don't know their deadline, but yes, they need to submit by a certain date, and there's not another council meeting. I will note though that it's not like we've had this for 3 or 4 or 5 months. They submitted on the 60-day deadline for them to submit to the municipality. One last comment to perhaps the Councilor Seven's comments. I think I'll speak for myself. We're not electricity experts. The parameters put in place by the IESO and the companies who are in place to put these types of installations together. I'm not too sure if I appreciate the word red flag, but that's what staff are here to review. Like we are looking at it from a safety perspective. Engineers working on behalf of the project proponent are going to have to do their due diligence and provide the appropriate documentation and studies and report to make sure that there is all those concerns are mitigated to the greatest extent possible.
And to that, if I could add, that's the comment that I've received from Festival Hydro itself to that end. Councilor McKee?
Through the chairman, I would just say is that all of this is going to be built by private capital. The expansion of our generation capacity in some way, and this will likely be happening in all formats throughout the province. And I don't see this coming forward from a non-private entity at this point. So I think that concern doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, I'm in favor of moving ahead and showing leadership in this area.
Any other comments at this time? Councilor Pete?
Through the mayor, in my mind, the safety is kind of number one, which I feel like is already. There are lots of mechanisms in place to ensure the safety of this project. And I did speak with the CEO of Festival Hydro and I asked very specifically, does he have any reservations of this project moving forward? And his answer to me was no, like he felt very confident in it. So I feel like if Festival Hydro is feeling confident in it, then I don't think they feel threatened by the project being private, so.
Any other comments or questions at this time? Director Betteridge? Seeing none, the item's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question, all in favor? Opposed to any, unopposed, the grants carried. Then another of this time over the, you'll go to the addendum with Mr. Sullivan's comments as well. Yeah.
Through your worship, as noted on the addenda, a correspondence was received in relation to this item, and there is a motion that the correspondence from Mike Sullivan be received.
Moved by Councilor Henderson, second by Councilor Spurback. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, opposed to any, then it's unanimous. Very excited. Thank you, Director Beveridge.
Moving to item 7.3, an appointment to the Stratford Police Service Board, and there is a staff recommendation that direction be given on the appointment of one citizen representative to the Stratford Police Service Board for the remainder of a 4-year term, November 14, 2026, or until a successor is appointed by council.
Councilor Nigel, go ahead.
I'd like to nominate April Smith. I think Ms. Smith brings a great set of skills to the board and will add diversity as well. I think he has a strong experience, leadership, governance, and oversight, and has worked with youth, families. And this police board is currently working on a strategic plan. So I think that there's another skill set that is being brought forward as well. So I think it'd be a great candidate.
Seconder for that individual, Councilor Hunter will second. Discussion, Councilor Henderson.
And we put forth another name and have a vote.
There is a motion on the floor, so I think we have to call a question on this, and if it wasn't successful, then we bring it on the forward. Councilor Henderson, any further?
Thank you, through the chair. First of all, I want to thank everyone who put their name forward to serve on this, the police board. It's an important role. It's a very small board, and currently there are all men serving on it. So it is important that we do have an appointment that's a woman, I think, to add much needed diversity and perspective. I would like to recommend that we would go with a different candidate, Lisa Wild, and my reasoning is that I do believe that Ms. Wild is the most qualified candidate that we have. She understands the role of the board, and she brings a lot of experience from a social services point of view. She is the acting director of the Emily Murphy Center. So she has interacted a lot with police. She's worked on our community safety and well-being plan. And she has a very good understanding of policing from both sides of the coin, from the community side and from the police side. So I do think April Smith is a qualified candidate. That my reservation is that she does come from an education background. We do already have someone on the police board who is also has an education background. So my rationale is that I'd love to see this board have as diverse a perspective as possible. So for that reason, I'm not going to support the motion on the floor.
Any other comments regarding the motion on the floor? See none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? And that's defeated. So I'll open the floor up for another. Councillor Henderson.
I'd like to motion that Lisa Wild be appointed.
Seconder for that, Councillor Burback will second. Any discussion with regards to the nomination of Lisa Wild?
Through the chair, I think given the rise in domestic violence and that issue in our community, it is imperative that we have somebody who represents that at this time, and that's why I support this person being on.
Any other comments? Councillor.
Yeah, thank you through the mayor. The two candidates we've discussed were my 1 and 2, so with the first one slipping by, I'm happy to support the second one, but I wanted to echo Councillor Burback's comment. The number of really well-qualified candidates was impressive, and it made the decision challenging, but anyway, there we are.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimously carried. Just before we leave this item, I just the vacancy was created by the passing of David Gaffney, who represented us well on that board, and my thoughts go out to David still. He was a quality candidate and served well on that board, so thank you very much. And I would also concur the addition of a female to that board is welcome. So. Next item.
Your worship, moving to item 7.4, resolution with respect to the municipal accommodation tax ad hoc committee appointments. There is a staff recommendation that direction be given on the appointment of one member of council to the ad hoc committee for a term ending April 30, 2026. Direction be given on the appointment of one member from the large accommodation sector to the term ending April 30, 2026. The direction be given on the appointment of one member from the small accommodation sector to the term ending April 30, 2026, and the direction be given on the appointment of one member from the tourism/business sector to the term noted, and that direction be given on the appointment of one citizen to the committee for a term ending on April 30, 2026.
Thank you. Councilor B.
Just for clarification, is it possible, also maybe make it easier to get this done successfully to take these separately?
Absolutely.
I think that might be the best way.
That's what I was going to suggest. Yeah. So why don't we start with the first one with regards to a member of council? Motion for that. Councilor Sapp.
I'll make a motion that Councillor Burback be appointed.
Will second it. Councilor Anderson will second. Any discussion? All in favor? Most of any, that's unanimously carried. Moving down then to the large accommodation sector. Mover, Councilor Burback.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that Jennifer Birmingham be appointed.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor Seven. Thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? 3 opposed, and that's carried. Down to small accommodator sector. Councilor Burback, go ahead.
I'd like to put a motion forward that John Hatton be appointed.
Thank you. Seconded by Councilor McKay. Thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? And that's carried. And then down to the tourism business sector. Mover for that. Councilor Henderson, go ahead, please.
I'll move that Cameron Ola, man, that's his name.
A seconder for. Thank you, Councillor Rodolfo will second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed if any? And that's here. And then. So we have the time frame there as well. Councillor McCabe, did you want to add an item here?
Yes.
Just wait just a moment here, I'm gonna.
What's that, 6 more?
Oh, yes.
Through your worship, just one more appointment, the citizen
Oh,
representative.
I'm sorry, that's correct, my apologies. Councillor Bean,
I'd like to make a motion that Nathan Schneider would be the citizen representative.
thank you. And Councillor Nigel, second discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, any, and that's carried, thank you, and now I'm gonna go back to Councillor. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I got a motion here that the terms of reference for the municipal accommodation tax ad hoc committee be amended as follows, that the terms of reference. Add the following subsection under ad hoc committee working process. Stakeholder engagement as part of its work plan, the ad hoc committee shall undertake consultation with the broader tourism sector affected by the municipal accommodation tax, including but not limited to accommodators, food and beverage operators, arts and culture organizations, attractions, and retail businesses. The committee may use a range of engagement tools, for example, stakeholder roundtables, invitations for written submissions, interviews, and public meetings as appropriate. And that the committee's final report to council should include a summary of the stakeholder engagement undertaken, and the key themes heard and how those views were considered in formulating its recommendations. I am in favor of the forming of this committee, but I want to make sure, I am a tourism operator, so I'm not willing to sit on this committee. But it's important that we have broad-based buy-in from the tourism sector. It is the map affects all operators within the community, and it's important that we see that information has been brought forward as far as the recommendations.
The seconder for that, Councillor Hunter will second, and I'm believing that you're going to share that.
Yes.
With the deputy clerk, thank you, so we're looking at supporting that council provide direction through that was provided through Councillor McCabe. Discussion, Councillor Satter.
Thank you. Just for clarification on the intent, is the intention that so if it was for the food and beverage sector, would there be an open invitation for all entities and operators to contribute to that? Is that the intention, or would it be reaching out sort of to a handful to?
I'll let Councillor McCabe address his motion.
I'm not going to define that entirely, but I think it's important that when we see the report, that it comes back with consultation with every sector, so that it's a broad-based recommendation as opposed to something that's focused in one area of the sector.
Is that fine, Councillor Satter? Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed of any, that's unanimous and carried. Thank you, Councillor McCabe.
Through your worship, moving to item 7.5, the Shakespeare Garden Island pedestrian footbridge removal update. And there is a staff recommendation that council receive the report titled Shakespeare Gardens Island pedestrian footbridge removal update for information.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Bean, seconded by Councillor Henderson. Discussion. Councillor Burbank.
I just wanted to make a quick comment and a thanks to the Upper Thames River Conservation for moving ahead with decommissioning the John Street Weir, because we know that environmentally it really isn't good for the water quality of the river. So they're going to go ahead, as noted in this report, with that process. So thankful to them, because I've asked them numerous times and they're probably getting tired of hearing from me. So excited to see that moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Burbank. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 7.6, the child care space expansion at the Anne Hathaway Daycare Center, and there is a staff recommendation that the report titled Child Care Space Expansion at the Anne Hathaway Daycare Center be received for information. The council authorized staff to proceed to increase the operating capacity of Anne Hathaway Daycare Center by 8 preschool spaces for 4 licensed spaces at a maximum cost of $44,000 as outlined in the city's procurement policy, and that the Director of Social Services be authorized to provide the required commitment to the ministry $44,000 of 100% federal ELCC infrastructure funding for a retrofit of Anne Hathaway Daycare Center.
Moved by Councilor Henderson, second by Councilor Burback. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried. And once again, thank you, Director Macker, for advocating with the Minister Belinda for these additional spaces. It is appreciated and needed. Next item.
Moving to item 7.7, the Falstaff Street parking review. And there is a staff recommendation that the traffic and parking bylaw 159-2008, Schedule 2, no parking, and Schedule 5, parking for restricted periods be amended by adding the restrictions noted on the report and deleting the restrictions noted in.
Thank you. Mover for that, Councilor Burback will move, second by Councilor Bean. Discussion. None noted, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimously carried.
Moving to item 7.8, the proposed amendment to the building bylaw 112-2005. There is a staff recommendation that the report titled Proposed Amendment to Building Bylaw 112-2005 be received, and that council approve the amendment to bylaw 112-005 as amended regarding the proposed changes as set out in the report effective January 1, 2026.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor McCabe, second by Councilor Burback. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimously carried.
Moving to item 7.9, the 2026 interim tax levy bylaw, and there is a staff recommendation that a bylaw to authorize an interim tax levy for 2026 and establish the interim tax due dates for the fiscal year 2026 be adopted.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Hunter, seconded by Councilor Bean. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimously carried.
Moving to item 7.10, the 2026 temporary borrowing bylaw. And there is a staff recommendation that a bylaw to authorize the temporary borrowing of funds from time to time to meet current expenditures during the fiscal period ending December 31, 2026 be adopted.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor McCabe, seconded by Councilor Bean. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimously carried.
Moving to item 8, business for which previous notice has been given and there is done noted. Item 9 is the reports of the standing committees, and there are 2 reports for your consideration. Item 9.1 is the report of the Community Services Committee, and there is a motion for the report of the Community Services Committee dated December 8, 2025 be adopted as printed. My apologies. The report of the Infrastructure, Transportation, and Safety Committee dated December 8, 2025 be adopted as printed.
Moved by Councilor Burback, seconded by Councilor Beatty. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 9.2, the report of the Social Services Committee. There are 5 items listed under this report. 9.2.1, the implementation of seniors designated housing pilot project within the Perth and Stratford Housing Corporation. Item 9.2.2, the early development instrument in Stratford, St. Mary's, and Perth County. Item 9.2.3, the partnership with the local community food center. 9.2.4, the sports and leisure program outcomes and impact. And item 9.2.5, the Stratford, St. Mary's, and Perth County Employment Ontario Services. And there is a motion that the report of the Social Services Committee dated December 8, 2025 be adopted as printed.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Henderson, seconded by Councilor Burback. Any discussion? Councilor McCabe, go ahead.
Through the chair, just wanted to note that it says under the motion that the report of the Finance and Labor Relations Committee be effective.
Thank you. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimously carried.
Moving on to item 10, notice of intent, and there is none noted. Item 11 is reading of the bylaws, and there are 8 bylaws for council's consideration. Bylaw 11.1 is the delegation of authority to enter into the HIPAA data sharing agreement. Bylaw 11.2, the temporary borrowing bylaw. Bylaw 11.3, the interim tax rate bylaw. Bylaw 11.4, appointments to the municipal accommodation tax ad hoc committee with the candidates identified by council at their motion earlier. Bylaw 11.5 to amend the traffic and parking bylaw for parking restrictions on Falstaff and Downey Streets. Bylaw 11.6, the park lot exemption application of PLC 22-25 for lot 4 on Worsley Street. Bylaw 11.7, appointments to the Stratford Police Service Board with the appointment identified by council. And bylaw 11.8, the amendment to the building bylaw 112-2025. Following bylaws require first and second readings and third and final readings and to be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council.
Thank you. Motion to take collectively. Moved by Councillor Bean, seconded by Councillor Niger. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimous and carried. Moving on to first and second, moved by Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor Bean. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimous and carried. And third and final, moved by Councillor Hunter, seconded by Councillor Burbank. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any? That's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 12, the consent agenda. Are there any items that council wishes to consider at this time?
None voted. Next item.
Moving to item 13, new business. Are there any new business items?
Councillor Burbank, go ahead, please.
Thank you, through the chair. This is just more of an update because we did talk about the recycling carts at the last council meeting. So I don't know if everyone's heard, so I just wanted to let everyone know where we're at. So we heard from Circular Materials, who's the organization that's now taking over the recycling program, that they will be providing a smaller size cart for those people who find the provided cart too large. So if anybody wants to replace their large cart with a medium-sized cart, you can wait for more information, and Circular Materials will be adding a section in the next week or two to their website where people can request it via one of their online forms. So that's happening next week. A second update is that if residents would like to go to a small sized cart, they can do so by purchasing one themselves, and the city of Stratford will be facilitating the purchase of these smaller carts. And that will happen in about a month or so. So you can call our waste operations team here at the city and put your name on a list to purchase one of the smaller 120 liter carts. So just, there's good news that there are some options now for residents.
Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
I'd like to make a motion that we look into seeing if we can change the 240 liter to 120 liter. And then it will actually be cheaper for the company to provide that to our residents. Residents would have to pay more if they want to get the 240 liter. But my understanding is most people that I've talked to or heard from want a smaller one.
Just wondering if that could be referred back, or do you want to?
Sure, so I'll refer that back to staff.
Second on the referral.
Yeah, I want to make a comment, but I don't want to send it.
Anybody second? Yeah. Councillor Rodolfo will second the referral.
Thank you, through the chair. I have been in touch with Emily, who's our operator waste management director. And I know she was talking with Circular Motion and then Tara all the way through, having discussions about the size, and basically I know she was told this is the option that we have for you, and that's it. I mean, we can ask them, but I don't know if it's, I know the question has already been asked a few times. that we would like to have the smallest cart and medium size provided as an option. But they came back with a hard no. It doesn't mean we can't ask again, but I'm just pointing out that staff has already asked a couple times.
Any other comments?
I just want to say that it's interesting that they would say no, and I'm assuming the 120 meter is a lot cheaper than the 240 meter one that you think you would want to buy.
And I had a brief conversation with Ms. Skelly as well, I guess it won't hurt asking.
Yeah. Thanks.
So there is a referral motion on the floor, all in favor? Opposed to any, and that's unanimous and carried. Next item.
Your worship, moving to item 14, adjournment to standing committees, and there is a motion that the council meeting adjourned to convene into standing committees as follows: the Finance and Labor Relations Committee, and then the Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Committee, and to reconvene into council.
Thank you. Mover for that, Councilor Burback, will move second by Councilor Knight. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed to any, that's unanimous and carried. There's a sending of forward chair.
We have a 5-minute break.
Pardon me?
We have a 5
Yes, we could. That's a good thought. Thank you very much. So, we'll still. Oh, counselor, just small there, counselor, it's just the owl is staring at us, so. Sheriff, whenever you're ready.
Welcome to the Finance and Labor Relations Committee meeting, which I now call to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I see that. Item 3 is subcommittee minutes, and subcommittee minutes are attached from the meeting held November 18th, 2025 for your information. 4 delegations, there are none scheduled. 5.1 is the report of the Chief Administrative Officer, or 5 is. 5.1 is the procurement of human resource support. There is a staff recommendation and subcommittee recommendation that council approve an exemption from section 11 of purchasing policy P.5.1 to single source the procurement of human resource consulting services for a term from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026, and that toward an up-to-growth human resources solution be retained for human resource support services for that period at a cost not to exceed $100,000, including HST. Moved by Councilor McCabe, seconded by Councilor Burback. Discussion. Councilor Henderson.
Chair, just questioning if we manage to get everything sorted out and going and the year's it's done before the year is up. Do we have a clause in there to be able to cancel to get out of that?
So through the chair, so yes, the concept is the way we're gonna draft the contract with them is kind of a user pay or fee for service. So it doesn't mean we're gonna use the whole contract, it means we'll use the services that we get, we will get charged for, and that's the service we'll use. As we ramp up our HR department, we'll start to use the external service less and less. And through, if that happens sooner rather than later, then that could have that.
Perfect.
And we'll report back to council, the intent to report back to council later in 2026, talk about where we're at, what we see moving forward with HR, and whether there's any reason to use external services in the future. And if there is a permanent reason to use external services, then we go out to proper RFP to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? No, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's unanimous and carried. And I know that this item will be brought back in the council reconvene. Item 6 is the report of the Director of Corporate Services. 6.1 is the update of natural gas electricity procurement. There is a subcommittee recommendation that the report titled Update of Natural Gas and Electricity Procurement dated November 18th, 2025 be received for information. Moved by Councilor Beatty, seconded by Councilor Nigel. Discussion. I will call the question. All in favor? And that's unanimous. 6.2 is the festival hydro update for the third quarter ending September 30th, 2025. There is a subcommittee recommendation that the festival hydro third quarter financial results and commentary for the period ended September 30th, 2025 be received for information. And that Festival Hydro Services Inc. third quarter financial results and commentary for the same period be received for information. Mover for that. Councilor Burback, seconded by Councilor Niger. Discussion. None. I will call the question. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Carried. 6.3 is Ontario Regulation 284/09, excluded expenses 2026 budget. There is a subcommittee recommendation that the report Finance 25-037 dated November 18th, 2025 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding legislative requirements of Ontario Regulation 284/09 and the impact of excluded expenses from the city's 2026 budget be received for information. Mover for that. Councilor Henderson, seconded by Councilor Burback. Discussion. None. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's unanimous. 6.4 is the Reserve and Reserve Fund Policy Review. There is a subcommittee recommendation that council receive the reserve fund policy report for information. That council authorized the proposed housekeeping changes and the establishment of a new reserve fund for affordable housing. And that 1 million of the proceeds of sale be allocated to the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund. And the remaining $2,062,481.78 be allocated at the time of receipt of the asset management plan with recommendation from the Director of Corporate Services. Moved by Councillor B, seconded by Councillor Henderson. Discussion. See none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's unanimous. 7 is the report of the Manager of Financial Services. 7.1 is the operating budget variance report as of September 30th, 2025. And there is a subcommittee recommendation that report dated November 18th, 2025 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Niger, seconded by Councillor McCabe. Discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Item 8 is for information of the committee. 8.1, there are no advisory committee outside board minutes to be provided. And 9 is adjourned. Mover Councillor Niger will move that, seconded by Councillor Gordofa. All in favor? And that's unanimous. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Chair Hyder, I'll welcome Chair Burback forward for infrastructure, completion and safety.
I'd like to call to order the Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Committee. Item 2 is disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Item 3 are subcommittee minutes. Item 4 is delegations and non-scheduled. Item 5 is the report of the supervisor of waste operations. 5.1 is the Stratford landfill public input invite from November 2025. And then there is a draft recommendation that council considers any comments received as part of the Stratford landfill public input November 2025, and that the report be received for information. And so just a note of that the comments, well, I can talk about that after you. I'll accept your motion. Councilor Hunter, and second by Councilor Hunter. There was just one comment about the hazardous waste collection at the landfill site, and the staff is looking into expanding our license so that we're allowed to collect hazardous waste on days other than Saturdays, so that we'll avoid big lineups. Are there any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? There is unanimously. Item 6 is the report of the Council Committee Coordinator. 6.1 is an encroachment application for 23 Albert Street. There's staff recommendation and subcommittee that the request for an encroachment onto municipal property of the lighting and sign at 23 Albert Street be approved. That the annual fee of $50 adjusted yearly be added to property tax bill. That the owners be required to apply for an awning permit for 2 awnings within 6 months from the date for approval of the encroachment, and that the city clerk be directed to prepare a bylaw authorizing the encroachment. Anybody have motion? Councillor Henderson, Councillor Nyman will second. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carries. Item 7 is for the information of the committee. 7.1 is department update. 7.2 are the advisory committee outside board minutes. So if does anyone have any questions about the department update? Seeing none, we'll go to item 8, which is adjournment. Councillor Hunter will move, Councillor McCabe will second, all in favor? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Burback. Councilor, we can move whenever you're ready.
Your worship, moving back to your regular council agenda. Item 15 is council reconvene, and item 15.1 is declarations of pecuniary interest and the standing committees. Are there any to be declared at this time, and if so, please state the general nature thereof?
None noted.
Your worship, referring to your agenda or to your addenda, item 15.2 is committee reports, and item 15.2.1 is the Finance and Labor Relations Committee report. And there is a motion that item 5.1 of the Finance and Labor Relations Committee meeting dated December 8, 2025 be adopted as follows. 5.1, the procurement of human resources support, that council approve an exemption from section 11 of purchasing policy P.5.1 to single source to procurement of human resources consulting services for a term of January 1, 2026 to December 31, 2026, and that Warden Updegrove Human Resources Solutions be retained for human resources support services between January 1 to December 31, 2026 at the cost noted.
Moved by Councilor Hunter, seconded by Councilor Burback. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Vote with any. That's unanimous and carried.
Moving to item 15.3, reading of the bylaws, and there are two bylaws for council's consideration. Bylaw 11.9 is the Warden Updegrove Human Resources Service Agreement, and bylaw 11.10 is the confirmatory bylaw, and these bylaws can be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council.
Thank you. A motion to take those two items collectively, moved by Councilor McKee, seconded by Councilor Burback. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed if any, that's unanimous and carried. A mover for first and second of 11.9 and 11.10. Moved by Councilor Beatty, thank you, seconded by Councilor Burback. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed if any, that's unanimous and carried. And mover for third and final, moved by Councilor Seven, seconded by Councilor Niger. All in favor? Opposed if any? And that's unanimous and carried. And our last item, just before I call for adjournment, certainly this is our last scheduled council meeting of the year. Certainly extend my best wishes to you, councilors, staff, and all the public. Best wishes for a holiday season that's safe, and find some time for you and your families and your friends to get together. I look forward to the new year. We've accomplished a great deal in 2025. And there's still much to be accomplished in 2026. Having said that, a motion to adjourn tonight's proceedings. Councilor Niger will move, seconded by Councilor Moldova. All in favor? Both the day. That's unanimous. Very good. We are very good. Thank you, everybody.